Hi everyone, welcome back to Young and Wifed Up. This is Marcella.
And I'm Gabby.
And thanks for joining us today for Season 7 premiere episode.
Woohoo! Our last episode for Season 6 was published on July 27th. That was 3 months ago. And since then, we have been staying active on our Patreon with our Little Women Book Club, bonus episodes, digital downloads, blog posts, and of course, our monthly video chat with our highest tier, which is our Queen tier. Huge thank you to all of our patrons that participated in our book club and also stuck around for our off season. We have a lot of exciting content planned for you guys this season. We are taking topic requests from our patrons as well as our Facebook group members. So if you haven't already and you would like to be a member of our Facebook group, head to the link in the episode description box.
Yes, thank you so much to everybody who has been supporting us on our off season, especially in our book club that everybody participated in and just keeping up with the content that we were putting out during this 3-month stint that we've had. But we're so ready to be back and recording and creating new content for you guys. So today we're actually going to just do more of a catch-up episode. I think for those of you who have been around, this is just like our regular routine. Like once we start a new season, our first premiere episode is typically just a catch-up. And yeah, just for our wider audience, we're just like wanting to take the time to update you guys on things that we have been up to since we last talked to you guys, which you said was in July, which is crazy because it feels like it went by really fast.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So yeah, we're just gonna dive in on some life updates. Thankfully, instead of it just being just like a random improv episode, Gabby was gracious enough to put together an outline for us to go through so we're not so scatterbrained, because I feel like after 3 months it's really easy to forget what exactly happened in those 3 months. It becomes such a blur. And so we're gonna kind of go through some questions and things that are more pertaining to the kind of content that we create, the topics that we usually talk about, which is like homemaking stuff, what's been going on in our families, and all that sort of thing. So anyway.
Cool. Awesome. So yeah, we'll get started with the first question, which is what has been the most surprising or biggest change in the last 3 months? And we're both going to answer all the questions. So first, I'll answer the first one. The biggest thing that happened to me in the last 3 months was getting my TMJD finally addressed with a specialist. I have appliances. So if you hear something different in my speech, I have a daytime appliance that I wear all day. And I have a sleep appliance that I wear to keep my jaw from falling back, my bottom jaw from falling back. And it's been quite the past crazy 3 months. I also had a tonsillectomy surgery. My tonsils were at a grade 4. They were completely blocking my airway, and they were causing obstructive sleep apnea and a whole other host of issues. And so it's all connected to this airway issue I have related to my tongue tie. So if you've been around the past year, you've known that I had 2 tongue tie surgeries this past year. My first one, I think, was in October or September of last year. And then I had another one in February. And it's been kind of like a big year for airway, for tongue tie, for oral health, for my addressing my TMJD. So that's been the biggest thing, especially the past 3 months. I saw a specialist. I got these appliances in. I finally found a specialist that could address a ton of these issues. And my hope is to get some videos together for anybody that's interested to go into more in depth what my experience has been as a TMJD patient, including the tonsillectomy surgery, because there's a lot that people don't know about what it's like. I mean, I didn't know until recently what it's like for an adult to go through a tonsillectomy surgery. It was very brutal. It was a month-long recovery. And we knew that this would change my life, like getting the tonsillectomy, getting these appliances. Like we had sat down with my specialist and she showed me all of my scans. I had got CT scans, I got x-rays, I got these crazy different muscle and joint testing devices. And she basically looked at me and said that she can help and that she could essentially cure my TMJD, which is really insane, especially after having dealing with this my whole life and it getting progressively worse. She told me that my life would change, and there's a lot of things that I didn't um, anticipate. So the biggest and most surprising thing is that I'm sleeping better already. I can work out with little to no issues with my breathing. I'm not gasping for air when I'm walking up and down the stairs. Like things that I never thought were issues for me are like things that I thought were related to other parts of my health were actually related to my airway issues and how it's all connected. And so I don't want to go super, super in depth and nerd out and occupy all the time talking about it, but this has been the biggest thing for me in the past 3 months. And I'm already seeing the fruit of it. And I'm just so grateful to God that I finally connected with a doctor that said that she could help. And it actually did help. And I'm already seeing drastic improvements. And so that's been the biggest change for me in the past 3 months. What about you, Marcella?
Um, yeah, you've had so much like downtime, recovery time this past year.
Yeah,
It's just
dude.
kind of insane. Just so many
I've
things
been
happening.
laid out.
Yeah, which I think in some ways maybe it's better that you just get it all done like
For
in
real.
one, like in one bulk season of your life as
Yeah.
opposed to just having it so spread out. Um so for us since our last episode, the biggest change has been that we now have two toddlers and a preschooler. So our youngest, Liam, turned 1 in September. And then Eli, our middle, he turned 3 in October. And then Seth, our oldest, is going to be turning 5 in like a month. So currently we have a 4-year old, a 3-year old, and a 1-year old. So um yeah, it's pretty crazy. Like you just don't realize how much things change, especially with children, until you look back like, okay, 6 months ago where all the kids were at like in their stages of their age and all of that, and especially Liam, like so much happens in that first year. It's just absolutely crazy, and it flew by. Like I really can't explain. There's like something fishy about how time works when you have more children, because with the like this is why I will never like force a new mom to try to adopt the idea that it goes by so fast, because I remember with Seth the time really went by so slow, especially like the first 3 months. It felt like a year. Like it was just like it the whole thing, it just felt so slow, and it's like, oh, the days are so long, and it's like, but now, like, obviously, literally, time doesn't actually go by faster. But it felt like with Liam, he was out of the newborn phase. I like blinked and all of a sudden he was like 4 months old. And it just kept going faster and faster and faster. And I think it's just, you have more children to focus on, you have more tasks and responsibilities between more people in the household that you're having to take care of. And so because you're kind of like stretched in all of these different directions, it just it takes the focus off of just one single child that you have like at the very beginning. And so I don't know. It really, now it's like, it really does fly by so fast. And even like with Seth, even though it felt so long when we just had him, it's like for some reason when you start adding in additional children, all of a sudden it's like your first one seems so much older than they were. And it's like, oh my goodness, you're so big now compared to your other like younger siblings. And so, yeah, Liam has, for a little while now, I would say for, like, a couple of months, he's been, like, partially walking and partially crawling, but, like, the past week and a half, he's just all of a sudden wanting to walk almost all of the time now, and it's so cute because he's just this little guy, even though he's a chunk, he's just, like, this little chunk, and just, like, walking around everywhere, and I'm like, "You're just a little person." Like, this is just so bizarre to me. It's so crazy. So, yeah, and then thinking a little bit more deeply about homeschooling, with Seth, trying to prepare for that. We're not formally starting that at this point, but that is also going to sneak up on us. And so
Oh yeah.
there are like all of these things that we're having to think about. And then, yeah, and then with Eli, it's just like he kind of like meshes all of the three brothers together. Like he's kind of the glue between the two of them, between the two stages of Seth being the oldest and Liam being the youngest. And he's like that nice bridge between the two ages, and he's just a sweetheart and just like such a clown and just your typical 3-year-old boy, like to a T. So yeah, that's been the biggest thing in the past few months. It's just like those first few years, so many changes happen with every child. And it just gets crazier the more that you add in and the closer they are together. So that, and then also just trying to navigate like how my productivity kind of ebbs and flows with each development of each child, because somebody will come into a new stage or phase of their life, one of the kids, and then all of a sudden I'm having to like pull back on quite a few things and kind of put my focus on them needing me to, help guide them through whatever it is. And so just keeping in perspective that it's not always going to be go, go, go for me all the time, and that it's okay that things kind of slow down in order for me to put more of my focus and time and energy on one of the kids who needs it and all of that. So,
Okay, next question is, have there been any unexpected joys or challenges recently? Please forgive me. The appliance really, like, especially if I'm very mindful of how I'm speaking, like when I'm recording, it's like really hard for me. So I'm still getting used to it. It's only been a couple months. But anyway, challenging for me recently has been balancing rest and work. This is a constant challenge for me, especially when I'm laid out for a while. And like Marcel mentioned earlier, I've been laid out a lot this year. I think I've spent more time in my bed and on the couch than any other year I've ever been. And so it can be really easy for me when I'm finally feeling well to just like go crazy and be a maniac. And so it's been a challenge to kind of balance, like, okay, I'm feeling well, but I need to ease my way in. I can't go crazy, because I still have like my PCOS stuff that I need to watch out for. I still have my chronic fatigue I have to watch out for. And because I've been feeling so well the past couple of weeks since I've come out of recovery, I'm just like desperate to have like a normal routine, desperate to get cleaning again and cooking again and just be on my feet a lot and exercise and do everything. And so it's just been a challenge for me to be like, okay, no, like you are doing better in one area and that's great. And we can praise the Lord for that. But we also need to be careful and not overdo
yeah.
it and ease my way in. So that's just been one challenging thing, which is something I constantly fight with, honestly. But I feel like now, because I'm just like feeling so good, I'm just like, oh, like I just want to do everything. So I need to be extra, extra, extra mindful. And a joy, an unexpected joy has been the changing of the seasons, especially like getting a respite from the horrible heat waves that we had this summer. We just literally Halloween Day was the first very cool day that like stuck through and it's stayed cool since then. And Ryan always says, just wait till Halloween Day and it's going to be cold after that. And he was right. He's always right. Every year he says that.
So
But for some
what is considered cold where you are?
So if it goes below 70 degrees, it's cold for
Like
us.
during the day or what?
Yeah.
Okay, during the day.
Yeah. So if it goes below 70, we're like, it's winter. Which I know most everybody, but like if you take into perspective, like everybody always like makes fun of us desert people, like you guys have no idea how cold it is. But we acclimate to the heat so much so that we can withstand 120-degree weather. And
Yeah.
so if that's our normal, if our normal is like 90, let's say that's like our average and the worst is 120, then 70 and below is like objectively colder.
Yeah, 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 sure. Right.
So, I'll let you
That's funny.
people that have your snow and you're below zero in the winter. Like, I don't want to deal with below zero weather. So, kudos to you guys. But you guys don't want to deal with my 120-degree heat. So, I'm telling you, it changes your mental state. Like, now that it's
I
cooled off,
agree.
I'm
Yeah.
like, thank you, Jesus. I want to be outside
Yeah,
more.
I'm like, it's time to be alive now.
Yeah. Like, I can live now. Like, I can.
Yeah.
It's like I don't have to hibernate because we hibernate in the summer and we
Yeah.
come out the rest of the year.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
yeah.
so that's been a joy that I didn't expect for me to be like, wow. And I think part of like me coming out of being laid out for a while and the seasons changing, it's just like magical for me right now. And just like, the cozy decorations and baking and just like enjoying fall. And I'm excited. We're going to go to Tennessee for Thanksgiving, which we're very, very stoked about. And I get to see all those big boys because they're not little anymore. um, but I'm happy that we can like go visit Oregon or go visit Tennessee to get like the true seasons that everybody like fantasizes about. And yeah, so that's been a joy that I've been unexpected, just like, I don't know, every day when I go outside, I just thank the Lord for the changing of the seasons. It's like we need seasons, we need change sometimes. And sometimes it's just so simple as like cooler air that can just lift my spirits. What about you?
So yeah, I'm excited for you guys to be out here. But by the time you get out here, all of the trees will just be dead and it will not be as pretty as it is right now. Hopefully there may be like some left, but this is prime weather. It's been a little bit warmer for us than usual the past like week and a half, but before that, wow, it was weather has been really nice. Okay, so let's see, unexpected joys and challenges. I think as far as like unexpected goes, I feel like there's been more challenges. Like Jen and I have kind of felt like we've been tossed back and forth by many different things. And like his work hours, for instance, have kind of posed a unique challenge for us. And they don't necessarily feel harder than they did when we first moved out here and he started his new job. Um, but it's like it's hard at first, and then you figure it out, and then you start to get used to it, but then you start to feel the fatigue of the schedule that you're trying to keep up. And so it's generally left us both a lot more exhausted than usual, but we're also trying to just still take advantage of what youth we have left in us and like lean into the really long days because we're young, we have the energy, we have the stamina right now to be doing extra work even after we've both been, he's been at work doing his thing and I've been working in the home. And even after the kids go to bed, it's like stuff still needs to be done. And yeah, we'll talk more about just, some other things we've been adding
Mhm.
in into our habits and routines. And even in the next episode, I think we might
Yeah.
dive into it even a little bit more. Um, but yeah, that's been the biggest thing, like block, I guess, for us has been just trying to figure out where that leftover energy should be going because it feels like our tanks are running on empty a lot of the week. Which is unfortunate, but like I would rather it be like that now than when we're much older and we can't keep up with
Mhm.
the
Mhm.
demand of energy. So anyway, that's pretty much like the biggest thing that's
Yeah.
posed a challenge for us. Yeah. Last few months.
So, next is how has our faith grown or been tested in the past few months? And I hate to keep beating a dead horse, but I mean, my surgery was like a huge part of the past 3 months, and it
Yeah,
was leading up
totally.
to it and also like after it. But my faith was definitely tested during recovery and even before that when we were making decisions about dropping thousands and thousands of dollars on this care that I needed. A lot of my appliances we had to pay cash, and my surgery we were able to get partially covered, but we did have to like fork up a ton of cash, and there was a lot of very difficult decisions to make, and we're in a position like thankfully where we were able to make that choice, and there may be a time there we would not have been able to do this a couple years ago, and who knows if we're in this same financial situation a couple years from now. So right now seems like the best time where God had provided. We had to take from savings, but you know what? Like we can put savings back. Like, thank you, Jesus, and so I see it as like a blessing and a privilege that we were able to do this, but it was still like we had to step out in faith that us working up the money, me working up the time, and us sacrificing a lot of things for me to get this care that I needed and get the surgery, because Ryan had to be my caretaker 24/7 for a month. So it was really rough. And but in the same along the same lines, like my faith has grown so much because I've seen God answer our prayers. Like I had so much fear and anxiety leading up to getting like right after we had the appointment where it was like these are your options, this is how bad it is, and if we don't take care of this it's going to get worse. And it was like, okay, Lord, like we're stepping out in faith, like, and so our whole church was praying for us, and um my pastor specifically was praying for us, and after an appointment one day we went to his house and he prayed over me, and it was very a faith strengthening experience to see how the Lord delivered us through that and how he used the prayers of the saints to build us up. And we just felt like, okay, like the Lord is answering our prayers. And my whole family was praying for me and our friends in California. And we just felt like loved and taken care of. And we just knew that God was providing for us. And so seeing God answer our prayers like tangibly in real time, because a lot of the time we don't see a lot of answers to prayer because we're like, well, it's not the way we wanted it to turn out. And so we think that's not an answer, but it is an answer. But I think us seeing the Lord bless this time the past couple months has been just like, okay, like we trust in the Lord and he delivered us and we're seeing blessings from it. And so that has definitely strengthened my faith, but also like the the midst of it was very, very, very rough. And I can get into that a little bit more later too. But what about you?
So for us, I know I've been talking a lot about Jed and I mean, really like what you have been saying, like you and Ryan have had to really be a team, and you've had to lean on him a lot more
Mhm.
um for a lot of physical needs. I mean, honestly, probably emotional needs as well, like during your recovery and all of that. But this is just what happens in marriage. Like you really are like doing all of life together, just with everything. So yeah, so Jed and I have been kind of dealing with some outside relational things that have been challenging, and it hasn't really been like new issues. It's just been like old issues that um seem to keep cropping up,
Mhm.
and having to navigate them over and over again. And we've been, slandered and outcast in many ways that have um, strengthened our marriage, which might be surprising to some people. And this seems to be something we kind of go through as a couple every few years. Like with people in our lives, something tends to happen where it's like, okay, we have a like not like a new batch of people coming into our lives, because like naturally we have people that we've been close to for years and years that I would consider, like lifelong friends. And then some people it's just, they're there for a season in your life, and then it's, time for things to move on, and this is just what the Lord um had for us in this season in our life. And the hurt is still obviously very painful, but we know that the Lord has been with us, and there's a peace that comes with knowing you have maintained your integrity even when
Mhm.
others have betrayed you. Like there is really something special about your faith being grown in the midst of losing people that you would have called your friends
Mhm.
and whatnot. And yeah, that's been probably the biggest thing for us, and for me personally, just growing in our faith and in my faith, having to lean on the Lord a lot, that He um, knows our hearts, and will see us through, and that we do still have faithful brothers and sisters in Christ who really do love us. And yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing. And I think everybody has some kind of um relation to that kind of scenario, that
Mhm.
we've probably all had somebody that, there's been um a conflict, or there hasn't been reconciliation over an issue or something like that. And yeah, everybody goes through it. I mean, the Bible talks so much about these kinds of things happening, and it shouldn't come as a surprise to us, even though it still hurts.
Yeah.
um, but yeah, we're still young in our years, and in some ways, like still young in our faith in comparison to what I think about when we're much older, and navigating friendships and relationships and all of that. By that time, like I know that these things are helping to grow us towards spiritual maturity. And yeah, I think that's been the biggest thing the past few months, that has really grown my faith,
Mhm.
specifically in just leaning on the Lord a
Yeah.
lot. So
Speaking of things that help us to grow our faith, are there any specific scriptures or sermons or spiritual books that have impacted us recently. And I'm going to make sure to throw these in our Patreon description so that our patrons can easily find those links. But if not, we're going to give you guys the references so you can find them too. But the one thing that helped me recently, it was before surgery, so we really need to get back into this. A small group of us, including Marcella, it was my husband, Marcella, and another friend of ours, and we started memorizing Philippians after reading a book about memorizing scripture together. And so we started memorizing Philippians 1, and we got pretty far. We got to like we're 17 or 18 from memory, but then we fell off when I got my surgery and we haven't gone back on. But I really want to finish at least the first chapter, at least have that memorized, because it really kind of like, I don't know, it brought back like a muscle that we don't typically work on, you know? And I feel like when we were younger, at least Marcella and I, like we were exercising the muscle of memorization so often, not just with scripture, but with a lot of things. And I feel like it's something that we as adults like don't think is as necessary, or we're not doing it all the time because we're not in school or we're not in Sunday school. So it was something that was really challenging for us, but it was really edifying also. And also doing it together and building one another up and encouraging each other was really nice. And one devotional that I recently finished is one of Susanna Spurgeon's devotionals called Free Grace and Undying Love. And I wish I could give this to everybody, like this devotional to everybody. Her devotionals are just so warm and so rich, and she just speaks to the heart of a woman so well, and also like speaks to the person that suffers, whether emotionally and mentally or physically. And I just like marked up that whole devotional because it's just so rich and so good. I'm going to be rereading it again over and over again. Her other devotional that I really love, excuse me, my mouthpiece, a cluster of campfire. I've probably read like 5 or 6 times because it is so, so good. And I just recommend Susanna Spurgeon. Everybody talks about Charles Spurgeon, but they forget about Susie. And my girl Susie has some amazing stuff. And then a sermon recently that really impacted me was one of my pastor's sermons called Real Words from the Afterlife. And he's going through the book of Luke right now. And I wish I wrote it down, but I can't remember. I think it was chapter 16. Don't quote me. I'll put it in the I'll put it in the description in our Patreon. But if you want to go on Sermon Audio or our YouTube channel for Las Vegas Reformed Presbyterian Church, you can easily find his sermon called Real Words from the Afterlife. And it honestly, like, I don't want to say haunted because like that sounds like it was a bad thing, but it legitimately like impacted me and like haunted me for weeks in a good way, in a way that was just like eye-opening and really like made me more on fire for reaching lost people and for speaking the truth in love and for sharing the gospel and for just like, I don't know, praying for our lost family and friends, like just really being on our knees and asking God to save them, because it really was a sermon that had so much gospel light, but also just the reality of the other side of things if you don't know the Lord and you don't put your trust in Him. And so it was really like the perfect balance, I thought, of law and gospel. And I'm gonna remember that sermon probably for the rest of my life because I probably told like 1,000 people to listen to it, and because it really like affected me that much. So I'd love to know what has been encouraging you recently.
Yeah, so I have been reading. I'm almost done. I have like I think 45 minutes left of I've been listening to it on audiobook, which has been really good. The Saints Everlasting Rest by Richard Baxter. And that, coupling it with God's Battle Plan for the Mind, the Puritan Practice of Biblical Meditation by David Saxton, it's honestly a match made in heaven, because in Saxton's book, he goes over what we should be meditating on as Christians, and the benefits of doing it to like your spiritual health and growth and to your faith. And one of the things that he mentions is meditating on heaven and the eternal glory that we're going to take part in when we die. And so that is all that Richard Baxter's book, The Saints' Everlasting Rest, is about. It's about thinking more deeply on our everlasting rest as saints. And I'm sorry if you can hear my 1-year-old in the background. So I would probably start with Saxton's book first, the biblical meditation one, because I feel like that's a good like precursor to Baxter's book. And let's see. That one has been, yeah, those two together. So I read Saxon's book at the very beginning of the year, and it has like everything that he talked about has really stuck with me this entire time. And I'm probably going to want to read it again pretty soon, like in the next month. And it hasn't even been a year since I last read it, because I just want to intake all of the information again. It was just so good for me. And yeah, and in Richard Baxter's book, it's not just like what to think about as far as like when we are in eternal glory with the Lord, but he also covers the how and what like even just practical things. Like there was a chapter on when is the best time to meditate on heaven, and how to meditate on heaven. And it's like there's that very like grasped onto concept that he offers in the book that is just incredibly helpful. So those two things specifically together, every time I read through Baxter's Saints Everlasting Rest, I'm also thinking back to Saxton's book on biblical meditation. And so I feel like those two together is just like really good. And another thing that has been helpful is one of our our pastor did a sermon in the last month. I think it was really recently. And the title of the sermon is Jesus, the Lord of Rest. And it was just a really comforting sermon for me. His name is James Hakim, and you should be able to find it on Sermon Audio.
Yeah.
I think everything is on Sermon Audio. And that's through, let me see what they have it on.
I think it's Hopewell.
Associate Reformed Presbyterian, maybe something. Let me see what you can search it as. Okay, it's under the church Hopewell Associate Reformed Presbyterian. So that's James Hakim, and that was like really recently that he did that sermon, and that has been just a huge comfort for me. And then one last thing is the Prayer Mate app. I don't know how I found out about this. Do you have it?
I don't. I mean, it sounds familiar. Maybe I used to have
not.
it.
I think maybe I was just searching on my Google Play Store.
I used to have an app that's similar, but I don't think I've actually tried Prayer Mate. No, I haven't. I'm looking at it now, and it doesn't look familiar.
Okay, I really like it because you can set up on the app, and I know people who are like against using technical things like for spiritual
Oh,
disciplines. Like
please. Then
I
cancel me because that's
I
90%
know
of
that
what
there's
I do.
people out there that are like that, and yeah, I feel like there are so many requests that I'm having to keep track of,
Mhm.
and just writing them down in the moment is just not always doable for me. And a lot of the time the requests are coming in via my phone, like through text
Mhm.
messages or signal messages. And so I can just copy and paste or like just go straight from the text and know exactly like what they're asking to be prayed for and that sort of thing. And I really like it because they have different lists. So you can have a list of family members that you can pray for, a list of
Mhm.
friends, um, what else is there? Like government, things for yourself, your church,
Wow.
um, just a bunch of different things. So they give suggestions on lists to make, just for, your children, your husband, your marriage, like whatever it may be. And then sometimes they give like example templates in there to use, or you can just literally type out your own thing. And let's say I have like a category that's family, and let's say Jed is in that category. So you can go to Jed, and then under Jed, I can put different subjects under Jed to pray for. And you can set it to where you can have all of these things on a rotation. So every day it gives me a list of like 15 different things. So it depends on how many lists you have and how many categories you have. And you can do, okay, I want one thing from each list to pray for every single day, and it'll rotate through all of them.
Hmm.
And then you have like an urgent prayers category, which is like things that people are urgently requesting that you pray for. It's not like a long-term prayer requesting. It's like, this is like a now, like, please pray for me right now, sort of a thing. So it's been really helpful just to keep track, like in my prayer time, of all the, people that I want to be praying for
Yeah.
and things that I want to be praying for, and topics and subjects even relating to myself that I want to be praying for. And even, praying the Psalms, praying scripture and that sort of thing. If you're doing devotionals and there's scripture that you want to be praying, you can input all of that stuff too. So, that has been really helpful, and it makes
Cool.
everything really concise
I'm
and just
gonna download that literally
categorizes it
the
for me.
second we're done.
Yeah, it's called Prayer Mate, which
Cool.
it's definitely on Android.
It's I saw it's on Apple and
Oh,
Android.
okay, perfect.
Yeah.
Then everybody
Awesome.
can use it.
Okay, so next is homemaking. Any homemaking projects that we've been tackling? So once I started feeling better, like I said, I was rage cleaning and rage everything. I was just like going crazy. And I had this ongoing list on my phone that I kept like at the bottom of my notes app because if I saw it all the time, it would stress me out. But things, neglected cleaning tasks or organizing or decluttering tasks that if I'm like opening a closet door and I'm like, oh, I need to get to this, I would put it in that list. That way, when I had some time and I was feeling well, I could pick one of the things on that list. So the first couple of weeks after I started feeling a lot better, I went through my closet. I reorganized the medicine cabinet, which was a huge one, including throwing away a ton of expired stuff. I also cleaned my makeup brushes. Girls, please clean your makeup brushes. Oh my goodness. I do not, okay, I wear makeup like once a week, maybe. Okay. I don't wear makeup a whole lot, but somehow me only wearing makeup once a week is still my makeup brushes, you guys. They are so disgusting. Okay, so this is your reminder. And if you just keep putting dirt and dust and old makeup on your face, no wonder you're breaking out, girl. No wonder your pores are clogged. Like, oh, okay, I'm preaching to myself because I cannot let it get that bad again. It was so bad, you guys. So I did a lot of those like neglected projects the past couple weeks, and I'm very satisfying taking a whole trunk full of stuff to the Goodwill. I was like, take it all, take it all. It was amazing. Another new thing that's not really a project, just like a new homemaking thing I've been doing is water kefir. I inherited some kefir grains from a girl at church, and I've been doing my own little water kefir. So you can do it a couple different ways. Lisa from Farmhouse on Boone is like the gold standard, and so I'm gonna have to go, and there's so much to learn when it comes to kefir. It's like so overwhelming, but I'm just doing a very simple feed every day where I like drink like the kefir every day unless I want to pause it, then I'll pause it in the fridge. And I'm trying to grow my kefir grains to like a giant amount. That way I can give some away. And then, yeah, and I want to do different flavors. Like I have a whole plan. So I'm new to water kefir. And if you don't know what it is, it's like a fermented soda that has a ton of probiotics in it. And you can do it with sugar and water. It's not that simple, but it's like sugar and water is what it comes down to. Or you can do it with fruit juices. So I've been doing it with fruit juices. And since I have it on my counter every day, I've been drinking it with dinner, and I just replenish it with fruit juice every day. And my grains are expanding and growing, and it's so exciting. And it is so bubbly, even just from one day of sitting on the counter. It's like full on soda. It's so exciting. Like it almost explodes every time. I'm like so happy. So that's been my new little homemaking project that I've been doing. What about you?
Oh man. Okay, so I've been in the process of making blankets for all the boys, like crochet blankets. And I finally finished Liam's because I I started his like a year ago, like so long ago. And then yeah, life just got away from me and I did not touch it for a long time. And then finally there was like a moment for me where I was like, I need to finish this right now. Like you have that like a nagging project that's just gone
Yes.
undone for so long and you're like, this is like been stressing me out like in the back of my mind for so long. So I finally finished it. So his is finished. So now I'm in the middle of working on Eli's blanket, which hopefully I think I'm like maybe half ish way through with that one. And then I'll do Seth's later on. So working on that, also like you, a lot of decluttering, a lot of purging. Like I kind of just had this um I went
Itch.
into like a purging rage at one point. Not an actual rage. Like I wasn't mad or anything. But like I don't know what else to call it. A frenzy, I should say. A like decluttering frenzy. Just all over the house, just like finding the spots that were driving me nuts. Like you, like the medicine cabinet was driving me absolutely insane. And so I like took everything out and reorganized, threw out all the old stuff that's been in there for like 5 years or however long. Somehow it moved with us across the country. How it made it here, I don't know how. It should have been thrown away so long ago. And because I've like increased the stock like in our medicine cabinet of like homeopathy, herbal, like tinctures and all these different things. I've also been trying to keep a record of our home apothecary so that if something happens, I know what we have and how much of it. And it's all digitally organized for me so I can see what we have and where. And even like we've also accumulated a lot of like medical devices also, which I'm sure you also have a lot of.
A
And
ton.
yeah, and even just keeping track of those has been a little tough because one of us will be dealing with an ailment or an illness or something, and I'll forget that we even have it because for me, it's
Hmm.
like out of sight, out of mind. And so, just trying to track down all of our little like contraptions that we have like throughout the house, just so I know like what we have to utilize. Also decorating the kids' rooms more. I am definitely more of the mind of building or bringing in decor much slower and really finding pieces that I really like and that I think is going to work in our home that we currently have.
Mhm.
Um, so sorry, I just hear my husband talking to my son right now. Um, anyway, so yeah, I'm just not really someone that just like likes to get everything decorated all at once. And our house still does not look finished. And to me, like, it's okay that it doesn't look finished at this point.
Yeah.
I really don't want it to be finished at this point because then that would mean I probably went and rushed myself into buying or accumulating a bunch of things that I just don't really like or can afford.
Mhm.
So yeah, we've been like slowly getting more stuff for the kids' rooms to decorate them to be just a little bit more whimsical and for them, as little boys. And yeah, it's so fun decorating kids' rooms. It's super fun. Um and then also trying to like get a handle on having more quote unquote fast food available in the house, like for the days where it is like too crazy to do an elaborate meal. So sometimes that means just like making a lot more of something so that we have extras to freeze, whether that's like, for example, like I made hamburger buns the other day. I had like sourdough discard hamburger buns that I made, and I made a double batch. That way, the next week we could have burgers again, and I wouldn't have to worry about making them. And so, with the double batch, I would just freeze them. And so, like things like that, where it's like things that are pretty much already done and prepped and made, and I can just take them out and thaw them or throw them in the oven. Just trying to be more intentional about that. So.
Cool. Yeah, I really need to get a handle on that too. I've recently started like bulk processing like potatoes, like chopping a ton
Mm,
and or like making a ton of fries, like raw, and then freezing
right.
and then having them ready to pull out because we've been in those situations before where we need a side or something, or we have people
Right.
coming randomly, and I'm like, oh, I
Mhm.
don't want to go and get this like garbage bag of something from the store. So if I
Yeah, yeah.
bulk process, if I get something as cheap as potatoes, like a bag of
Right.
organic potatoes are like it's like $5, and
Yeah.
if I just
Yeah.
go spend an afternoon processing a ton of them doing shredded hash browns or whatever, and
Yeah.
then you have something to add to your meal. Anyway, so I really want to do more stuff like that too. Any new skills or handicrafts that we tried in the last 3 months? So one thing that I did recently is I modded my Nintendo Switch, which is not necessarily like a handicraft or like, but it is a new skill. Okay, so something that I've been wanting to mod electronics for a while. It's like my own little thing. I follow a ton of these accounts on TikTok of people doing these unauthorized customizations to their electronics, like video games or their laptops or their PCs or their keyboards, like stuff like that. And I always thought it was so satisfying. And I'm like, I'm going to do that. I can totally do that. But I am not one to do very small motor skill tasks. Like I don't necessarily have
Mhm.
the patience for that sort of thing. But I was so determined, so I did it, and it took me like a week and probably 6 hours collectively. I even broke a part of my Switch to where I couldn't put my Joy-Con on it, like it wasn't registering my Joy-Con. So then I had to get a replacement part, take out more of the Switch. It was such a nightmare, you guys, but I did it and I learned so much. And now I feel like I could fix anything. Like genuinely, the amount tiny, teeny, little crazy little screws and little electric tape. It was so crazy. I should have had like magnifying glasses because it was so intricate and so hard. But I did it, and now I have this beautiful pastel blue, not blue, purple. It's like a periwinkle, honestly. It's like between blue and purple. I have a beautiful pastel Nintendo Switch now, and I got like a cute little sparkly case for it, and it's just very cute and girly now. And before it was like red and blue and black, and it was just not a vibe. Anyway, so if you guys were around in like 2020, that was like our video game era. Both Marcella and I
Yeah,
were doing everything like
I know.
Fortnite, Animal
I
Crossing,
always
everything.
I always tell Jed, I'm like, I think I want to go back into my video game era. And he's like, yeah, okay, sure, because I'm just a talker at this point. Like I really want to be that person again that I was.
I know, and it's like so like nobody believes me, but it's like so nice because it's a way that you can relax and turn your brain off, kind of like when you're watching TV. But you're depending on the kind of game you do, it can actually be a de-stressor. Like I've played games where I'm literally so stressed out and screaming out of my mind. But there's games like Animal Crossing where it's
Right.
so comforting and
It's
slow.
very like low stimulation.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
And
yeah.
so I've been playing Animal Crossing again. I restarted my island. This is like my fifth island. I've like restarted this game so many times, but I'm like so into it again. And I think me modding my Switch like remotivated to get back into video games. And I know like people are like, you guys are crazy. Like I thought we were trying to stay away from our screens. This is a different kind of screen, okay? Nobody's
I
ever
think
gonna believe me.
honestly, well, obviously depending on the video game because some of them
Yeah.
are just absolute trash.
Yeah.
But I think there can be a case made that some of them could be better than like doom scrolling on your phone.
Oh
So if
yeah.
you like, can choose between one or the other.
Yeah, like TikTok or build this little magical world where I farm and have little animals. Are you kidding? Like I can't homestead in my little Las Vegas backyard, but you know what I can do? I can have a whole farm on Animal Crossing. Okay,
Oh
anyway,
man.
so modding my Switch, I mean, don't call me like a woman in STEM or anything, but I'm feeling very like I'm ready. I'm ready to take commissions, guys. Like
Oh
send me your video
man.
games consoles and I'll mod it for you, okay? I can't I
So
can't promise
funny.
that I won't break something, but I'll fix it even if I break
Yeah,
it.
I'd be a little scared. Be a little scared. A little scared.
All right, what about you? Anything new?
Okay, so I was literally racking my brain trying to think of some new thing that I've started, and I'm literally just a boring girl who
It's
just
okay.
does the same old, same old. But if you listen to my Leveling Up Your Homemaking on Patreon, you would know why I
Mm-hmm.
have not added anything. Although, I will say I've been extremely tempted to start learning how to knit, and I have literally had to hold myself back from buying knitting needles because I've had these two skeins of yarn, this like wool, like just gorgeous, deep, like teal color yarn that I've been dying to use for so long now. And I realized like the texture of the yarn is just not very compatible with crochet. And of
Mm,
course, I'm like, I have to use this yarn, which means I have to learn how to knit.
I love it. I love it.
But I'm like, I'm so far behind on my crochet projects and also just like basic mending, sewing things that need to be done that my poor husband has been waiting on for so long. That I'm like, I cannot add this into my life right now because I know it will literally overtake
Mm-hmm.
all of my time. So all I do is just watch other people knit online because it looks really relaxing. And yeah, maybe soon. We'll see. I'll keep y'all updated.
All right, well, I'm going to ask you another question because this is specific to you.
Oh no.
Any
Oh
parenting
yeah.
victories or lessons learned recently?
Okay, so I was talking to Jed about this last week. Um, just kind of how I've been trying to view like the days that seem a lot harder with the kids than normal. And just kind of almost coming to this conclusion that it's not really our kids' energy or like attitude that changes a lot, which it can, and it still does. But it's more like us as adults, like our tolerance and patience wanes. And so we feel like, well, our kids are acting up more and they're making us more irritated, or like we feel like we're being set off a little bit easier than usual. And it's because of them. And it's like, well, no, sometimes it's literally just because of us. And they're just the same, like, amount of rowdy that they usually are. and, and we're not handling it as well, maybe as we should be or usually do. And sometimes, like, yeah, their attitudes can be really stinky, like extra stinky some days, and um, and obviously we also have to watch out for that. But I think also knowing when it's really just us being more impatient, and not
Mm,
necessarily that they're doing more to make us
mhm,
impatient. It's just our own sinfulness coming out. And um yeah, that's like probably been the biggest epiphany that I've had. And a lot of the time, like, I think we're just easily set off as parents, and we need to figure out how to differentiate between children sinning and children being children,
mhm,
and not like matching their energy.
mhm.
So I feel like when they give you that, like when they are actually sinning, and they're being disobedient or throwing a fit or whatever it may be. It's a typical thing that comes up in day-to-day life. Um that we can differentiate between those situations and other situations where it is just truly children being children, and then also not responding to them with more foolishness,
Mhm.
and not matching their energy in that way, and having more control over your own emotions and how you're responding to a situation with a child, or even just dealing with, maybe sibling conflicts too, and also not matching the energy. And I feel like it's like you can kind of fall into either ditch, because I feel like I've also like come to another epiphany, which I didn't put in the notes, but I just thought of it right now, that I also have to not compare some of the parenting that Jed and I have to do to other families who have mostly girls in their
Mhm.
family. Because if we really do believe that males and females are different, that doesn't just start puberty and beyond. Like, I think
Mhm.
anybody who's worked with children for any amount of time know that that is like from birth. That
Literally,
they are
yes,
different. And
so different.
obviously, there are the outliers where it's like, there are girls that are a little bit more tomboyish, and maybe boys who are a little bit more shy and reserved. But for the most part, sometimes I feel like the only way to to get some order in the house with little boys is to just be a drill sergeant for a little while,
Yeah.
and just like in still the most loving way. And sometimes I feel like we can look at other families that maybe have a different dynamic, because they have their own like gender imbalances in their family, and we can think like, wow, like, why is it that they are able to parent this certain way and it works so well for them? And
Mhm.
sometimes it really is just a matter of that they're working with girls, and girls are going to respond and react differently than
Yeah,
boys.
yeah.
And it's not even necessarily like, when I say drill sergeant, I don't mean like you're yelling at,
Mhm.
children out of anger, but it is more of like a regimented
Yeah, they need more structure
order.
and order.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so, I don't know, it just makes me laugh because we're we're the only family that I know that we're like physically like in location close to that has all boys that we interact with on a regular basis. And everybody has either more girls than boys, or actually no, I think almost all of them. Yeah, I think all of them have a mix of girls and boys. For a while, there were a couple of families that had only girls, but now just recently they've added in some boys, and so there's like they're kind of balancing out. And so, just seeing the difference between the two in the dynamic with parenting and how you handle things with boys in comparison to girls. And obviously, both of them need gentleness and love. And girls do still need the structure and the firmness. But it's still different. And it's hard to explain when you haven't worked with children, or maybe you don't have children of, both on your own. But it has been kind of an eye opener for me, like the past couple of months specifically, just thinking like I don't have any reference. Like I don't have anything to reference as far as like parenting girls because I've never been in that position before. And so it's like Jed and I have to search the scriptures and know what's right and good for our family and for our kids and their natural dispositions and their own sinful tendencies and all of that, and like move from that point. So
Mhm.
yeah, that's been a big thing too.
Yeah. Okay. How have you and your husband supported each other through any big decisions or changes? So, I kind of teased that I was going to flesh out a little bit more how our marriage was tested and also strengthened during my recovery. And that was mostly because I was, for 3 of the weeks, completely useless, like laying in the bed doing absolutely nothing. The first 2 weeks, I couldn't do anything except open my eyes and watch TV and force down food when I knew I had to, and drugs. So it was really hard. And the nature of the tonsillectomy recovery in particular was that every hour in the night we needed to give me fluids in order to keep my wounds from drying up. So it was very intense, sleep deprived, extreme, excruciating pain. Some of the worst pain I've ever experienced in my life was during that time. And just seeing Ryan just like step up to the plate, and I would always check in with him, like, are you okay? Do you need a break? And we had my friend Brooke came a few times and kind of gave him a break. And also my brother came, I would say, to babysit me. He came to babysit me one afternoon, which was a good respite for Ryan so he could go run some errands. But other than those few times where Brooke came in, the one time that my brother came, Ryan was taking care of me around the clock, and it was very, very rough. And, there were a couple of hard times where we were having a fight about food, because when you have not had regular food for more than a couple days, you start to go a little crazy and you start to want to make decisions that may not be as wise. And I was trying to convince him that I could, in fact, have a French fry when I shouldn't. Marcella's dying right now. She has herself muted. But so there were times like that where like it's crazy and funny now, but like in the moment, your mental health is so shot. Like the only thing I wanted in the whole wide world was like to chew something. Like I can't even, like, until you've been there and had any like serious oral surgery. And because I had 2 other serious oral surgeries, I've had to have several bouts of this year where I had to be on a liquid or soft foods diet. And I'm telling you, there's something about the act of chewing or crunching that we need. I don't know what it is. We need it. And Until you go without chewing and crunching for more than a couple days, I don't want to hear it. Because I probably would have thought people were crazy if they said like I went mentally insane from not being able to chew food because I was quote unquote eating all day long because I needed to eat to keep my strength up and I was on narcotics. And I also just for your recovery, you need your strength. And so like we were forcing me to eat, and we were trying to time it to where it would be when my medication was peaking. So I was eating a lot, but I was not chewing. And I know it sounds gross.
Okay, I have a theory about that. Like, I wonder if
Tell me.
The Lord just made us to like need that sensory kind of
Yes.
thing for
Hmm.
like our stress.
Hmm.
And maybe that's what you were
I think
experiencing.
it was like there was a sensory aspect because even though I was in so much pain and swallowing felt like knives or battery acid, like it was horribly painful. I would like do anything to chew a French fry or a piece of chicken. Like I was like dreaming, fantasizing about food, guys. Like I promise, like I'm not going to continue to harp on this, but like on TikTok, you guys, there was this trend of you like picking your like plate. Like you go to Taco Bell and you pick your ideal meal. Okay. I have giraffes. There are probably 10 videos of me on my drugs during my surgery recovery where I'll send some to you, Marcella, where I'm like fantasizing about my ideal Chick-fil-A meal. Like when food gets taken away from you, all you can think about is food. Anyway, so that was really dark.
Oh
So the
my
food
goodness.
thing was kind of like a problem for us. Because
Sorry.
Ryan's like he's fighting me, but he's being very reasonable. He's like, hey, we're trying to not have you bleed to death. And I'm like, but I need this French fry.
Okay.
Okay, anyway, I'm just saying my marriage was toasted.
Oh my goodness.
um,
I'm crying.
but the Lord strengthened us, and
Oh,
I'm very, I'm very blessed to have a very kind and gentle husband who is the perfect caretaker when I need him to be. He's a very loving, he's very attentive, and I'm so blessed. So, in that way, it did strengthen us, but there were some really dark times. Anyway, something more lighthearted that we've been doing to try to spend more time together in the evenings is we've been, like I said, we're like getting back into video games. We started playing this. It's kind of like a escape game where you have to go through a lot of these obstacle courses to escape, and that's a very simplified version. But it's called Little Nightmares, and it's like a horror video game. It's animated, and you're like trapped in this like monster insane asylum. It sounds really like scary. It's not that scary, okay? I'm really sensitive and I don't like watching very frightening things. But it's more scary that like you are getting chased and you're like trying to run, like you're trying to jump over this thing and grab this thing. And so him and I, it's technically a one person game, but we've been like working together. Like we'll set 10-minute timers and go back and forth to try to escape. We haven't beat the game
oh,
yet.
that's a good idea.
We've had this game for like a couple years now. It's really popular. There's like two different ones. We only have the OG, the original one. And it's so much fun. Like Marcel, I'm going to take my Switch because I want us to play when we're in Tennessee because it is so fun and you're just like running for your life and it is just so fun. And like, it's just scary enough to where you're like, ah, but it's not like horrifying or bloody or, but anyway,
Yeah, yeah.
it's, you
I know
saw,
which
you
one you're talking
caution.
about.
Yeah.
I've seen people playing
I
it
don't
like on
recommend a
stream and
child
stuff.
play it,
Oh yeah, no.
but it is like a fun little game to do with your husband. And
Monsters
then,
chasing you, you know.
yeah, you know, just, like hearted, wholesome stuff. All right, what about you?
Okay. What question are we on? Oh, you and your husband support each other. Any big decisions? Life changes. Okay, I guess like I mentioned earlier, Jed and I have become like even more united on handling relational conflicts, like not between the two of us, but like just us and other people outside of our family. And I think like some people thought that it would leave us divided, but it really just confirmed and drove deeper our convictions about our faith, our beliefs about biblical gender roles, and also just like how we want to raise our boys as far as like faith and virtues and education. And yeah, Jen and I have generally been like of the same mind on most things throughout our marriage. Like we've had a few odd things where it's like I don't think we've ever really disagreed about really really important things, which is a blessing because I mean for one, that was really what's the word I'm looking for? That was really like vetted while we were dating between the two of us. It was really important that we were on the same page about a lot of things. But I feel like there are people who do that, but then they come to find out later on that, maybe one party was being deceptive. And I'm very grateful that that has not been the case in our situation because I've heard of those things happening and it's just really unfortunate. But we have like generally been of the same mind on like most everything throughout our marriage. But I don't think we've ever been like as in step with each other as we are now. And I thought this about our relationship even like a couple of years ago and I was like, man, we are really on the same page about so many things. And now we're even more so on the same page about so many things. And so I just hope like the unification just grows stronger and stronger and
Yeah.
stronger as the years go by. Um and also just seeing with Jed his desire grow to like stand firm and like make known his convictions about his own household and holding fast to the Lord and and yeah, like seeing him stand firm on his beliefs and even things that, people might think are just like, well, these are just things that don't really matter like to the outside world, but to us as believers, like it really does matter a lot. It really motivates me um, to want to push myself more, to be like diligent in my own duties, to be stronger in my own convictions, and not even just like, I'm just gonna believe this more, but just like, I'm gonna be like more informed about this. And so,
Mhm.
um, yeah, that has been a really big thing, like the past few months, just kind of like circling back to, everything that we've been through even since moving here and just so many things that have happened. And I think that has really just drove home like us being on the same page. It's like, yes, we are going down the right path and we're walking in the same direction side by side with each other. And that's just been a really big blessing to me. And another thing is we've also started regularly working out together as of like a couple months ago. And we have both always been active in like some way or another all of our lives, but it's always been like separate things at separate times. Like I'll go and do my own thing, active thing, or he'll go and do his own active thing. And I think before the last couple of months, we've maybe worked out with each other like a total of 2 or 3 times in our
Oh,
whole
wow.
in our
Yeah.
whole marriage. Um, and so now we've been trying to like make a point to work out together with our own equipment at home. And it's really given us more things to talk about and to bond over and like learn from each other, even in like the middle of a workout session. Like, there's something about doing something physically challenging with somebody else by your side that kind of like makes you feel like you're on the same team, for
Mm,
something. It just like kind of builds that unification more, I feel like, in some ways. And yeah, I mean, Jed has been like accumulating just a ton of workout equipment over the past like 3 years or so of our marriage. And so it's nice because we don't have to spend the money on a gym membership. But then it's stuff that's like, it's so versatile that you don't need a lot of room to use it, but it's like you can use it for so many different things. And I think we'll probably go into more of that like in the next episode.
yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, and then the last thing, this is like also kind of lighthearted, but we've been watching so we randomly decided like a few months ago that we wanted to go through all of our favorite movie franchises together, like all of them that we could possibly think of. And you guys, the list is so long, like I think it's probably going to take us like 3 years to get through it at the pace that we're at now because we don't want to like be watching a movie every single night. Like that's such a waste of time. And so we've been watching a movie like twice a week if we have the energy and like when the schedule like allows, and sometimes it doesn't. And we're just like going through all the classic movie franchises that we know that we enjoy. And some of them it's like stuff that Jed recommended and I've never seen before, but he's like, "Oh, this is so good. Like, how have you not seen this before?" And then some things that I've recommended that he's never seen before. Like, for instance, we just finished, well, it wasn't recent, but it was like one of the first ones we did was the Indiana Jones series, and he had never seen any of them before. Like he had seen snippets of the movies, and so we finally watched there's like 5 or something
Mhm.
at this point. And so yeah, that's been fun because it's like we know the days that we have movie nights, and so there's like already scheduled time where we to like get to hang out and
That's
throw a
fun.
movie on and that sort of thing. So yeah, that's been really fun too. So yeah.
Cool. So, looking ahead, are there any big projects or goals that we're working toward finishing before the end of the year? So, the biggest thing I want to focus on is really just enjoying good health at the end of the year. Like, Lord willing, I pray that I don't have any bleeding flare ups or anything like that. But can at least say that, like, I just feel a shift in my health already. And I can tell that the next few months is just going to be really good, more willing and permitting. That I'm just trying to enjoy just like the seasons and Thanksgiving coming up and ramping up for the new year and enjoying family. And I'm just really excited for that. I'm also focusing on getting a sustainable exercise routine down. I'm going to talk about that more in the next episode, but since I can breathe a whole lot better now, um, exercising is like a lot easier for me, which before I still would, I would push myself, but I feel like there's a barrier that I've like overcome where like I didn't realize that my breathing issues were causing me to maybe stop too soon or to be a little bit less motivated to do something because it was harder. And I didn't realize how much my breathing was contributing to my physical abilities, you know? So that's really fun. I'm excited to get a good routine. I want to have like a habit just ingrained that I just jump to, and it's not just like, oh, only when I'm feeling well or when I'm feeling my best. I want something sustainable that I can count on and be consistent with. And then I also want to focus on some creative projects that I've been wanting to do. I want to start working on recording an audiobook. I also want to do those TMJ videos about my experience as a TMJD patient. And I also am kind of slightly rebranding my Instagram, my homemaking Instagram. I just did a username change this week. I actually just did it today, but when you're listening, it will have been a week. And just kind of like being more myself, I guess, and being more like, I don't know, like not thinking too hard about what I'm creating on that Instagram, because it can become really overwhelming, especially when you want to grow your account where you feel like you have to like adhere to all these rules. And I feel like recently I've just been like, I'm just going to do whatever I want. Like, it's my Instagram. And if people like it, they'll watch it and engage with it. If they don't, whatever. Like, I at least liked and enjoyed doing it. You know, it's okay if like something flops. Like, I just don't care anymore. I guess I just have a new mindset now of just like, I'm creating to create just for the purpose of creating. And I want to enjoy it. And I don't want to feel like I have to adhere to all these rules of being a content creator. And so I'm kind of just doing whatever I want on my homemaking page now, which I'm really excited about. And I feel like more free and more myself, and less like I need to be this like really gentle trad. I don't know. Like, not that I'm always trying to be that way, but that those videos just genuinely do better. Like, they perform better when I do like these very like aesthetically, I don't know, like I just don't care anymore, you guys. I just want to like be like, this is what I made for dinner. Like, you know, like I don't know, what did you make for dinner? And I just like don't want to put music on my videos that I hate. And I'm just like, you know, I'm just sick of it. I'm just sick of it. I'm just gonna be myself. And if you don't like it, then you don't have to follow me. It's just how I feel. Anyway, what about what about you, Lexi? Oh my gosh, I just called you Lexi on the podcast for the first time. I try so hard not to. It's her name to me.
Yeah. Also, my little clip-on mic died, so hopefully the audio change is not that drastic.
It's all that bad.
I apologize if it is. I don't know when it died. It was probably like 30 minutes ago, and I've just been like yapping, not knowing. Anyway. Okay. Okay,
Something you
working
want to
towards
work on, towards finishing before the end of the
Okay,
year.
yeah. So definitely finishing up the boys' blankets. Like, I feel like that's just gonna weigh on me until they're done. And I think this is something I want to revisit like every 5 years, maybe. Is like they'll have a new set of a new blanket like every 5 years, maybe 10. I don't know. We'll see.
Wow. I want a blanket. How about next year you make me a blanket?
Oh man. Yeah, there was one year I was so on top of like all of my handmade Christmas gifts. I was like starting that stuff in freaking August, man. And now we're like, 2 months away from holiday winter season. And I don't know, I think a lot of you will end up with nothing at this point unless I get on it now. That's if I want to do all handmade stuff because it's like
I'm
very
already
time
stressing out.
consuming.
We literally just budgeted for gifts for the winter
Mm,
season, and I'm like,
yeah.
oh great. Like, I love giving gifts. I love it
Yeah,
so
same.
much. but it's like it's the pressure of it just being this super special. Like it's me. I put the pressure on myself. I'm like, I just
I
want it to be
know.
so special, but
I
then it's just
know.
like this huge cloud over.
Yeah, and then this is such a rabbit trail, you guys. This episode is just way too long already. But literally, but okay, so then you like give them this really special, like curated handmade gift, and then you're like, I have to top myself next year, and
I
how am I gonna
know.
do that? And then you just getting and giving better gifts, and it's like, I don't know what to do anymore. I don't know
I
what to
know.
do.
That's exactly how I feel, dude. It's like, all right,
Yeah,
you guys, we're all getting
it's
a gift card.
yeah, like
I
honestly,
give up.
I think that was us last year. Just every you get a gift card, you get a gift card, you get a gift
Yeah.
card.
Hey, that's
Yeah.
why our family does wish lists, because if you can't
Yes.
figure out that special curated situation, you cannot go wrong with a wish list,
That's
man.
your backup
I
plan.
don't care
Yeah.
if it's like, well, but then it's not special. Yeah, it is. It's special because I wanted it. And I didn't want to buy it, but you bought it for me. That's
Oh
special.
man. Yeah,
Oh, man.
I agree. But yeah, it's absolutely self-imposed pressure by all means. Anyway, so finishing that up, probably further like purging the house and like getting a more consistent deep cleaning routine down. I am also considering audiobook recording, like Gabby was saying, and for what? I have no idea. I mean, we've kind of thrown around a few ideas, but nothing has been worked on, set in stone. No action has been taken. We're just all
Yeah.
talk at this point. And then the last thing is two last things. Second to last thing is moving more of my informational life off of social media. And what I mean by that is like I feel like when you get to this age, you just accumulate so many like recipes and tips
Oh,
for this and tricks for that and routines for this. And it's like I want all of that off of my phone and somewhere else. And so it's been a lot of testing recipes, printing them out, getting them into a binder, even like, you know, home medical type stuff, just like random things that like just get so cluttered in social media from so many people that you follow that if the internet crashed, we would just be completely screwed. And I
I think
don't want to
about
be
that
in
all
that
the
position.
time. I'm like, where will my memes go? You're like recipes, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I gotta save all this onto my Google Drive, all of these memes.
Oh yeah, but it has mostly been like recipes that I keep
Mhm.
going back to, and it's been like, a fan favorite for a while now. It's like I just need to print this out and just have a paper copy of this. That way I can delete it from my phone forever and not have it taking up space in my digital life. Anyway, working more on that. And then the last thing is I really want to get more home fermenting going by the end of the year. So I have like your very basic things. Sourdough. Years ago I did kombucha with my mom, which was a wild
R.I.P.
experience. Yeah. Um and then I've done like some fermented dairy stuff, like I've made yogurt a ton. Right now I'm in the middle of trying to get milk kefir grains going. And so things like that, like wanting to get more, like I want to learn how to make kimchi and like oh, yeah, goals.
Just
Nice.
fermented girlies. What can we say?
Yeah, we are just some bubbly girls.
Yeah, bubbly and vinegary.
Bubbly and
Um,
acidic.
all right, we gotta wrap this up. We're gonna wrap it up by talking about what we're excited to share with our audience. You, dear listener, if you've made it this far, 2 hours later, they're like, wrap it up. we've like progressively become more unhinged as the episode has gone. Like we were so calm.
I
And now I'm
know.
just like screaming and acting
So,
ghetto.
yeah, so demure
Yeah.
at the beginning of the episode.
This is the real us. This is us late at night, completely sober, just
Oh, yeah.
the end of a long day. Okay, I'm excited to spend more time on topics in series this season instead of feeling like we have to cram like a ton of info into like one tiny little episode. So we're excited to do more things in series or parts. That way we can flesh out more of our thoughts and more details because I feel like in the past we've had to, like I said, cram a lot of info or cram a lot of our thoughts. And we're like, we don't have time for that. We don't have time for that. So we're going to kind of do more expansive episodes where we can break them up into different parts or series. That way we can just go really into a topic and not feel like cut off at all. So I'm excited about that because that'll give us more opportunities to just flesh out more topics. And I'm also excited to include our listener requests. We had a lot of really good requests the past couple weeks. So if you guys have more requests, find those posts on Patreon and Facebook. And please let us know if there's any topic that you'd like us to cover. We're going to try our best to cover as many as possible. We prioritize the Patreon requests, but then we also always care about our Facebook member requests and our Instagram requests because I made a post on there too. And we really want to incorporate as much of your guys' requests as we can into this season. If not, then we have more content for the following season. What about you, Marcella?
Yeah, I'm also really looking forward to going through audience requests. I mean, we're already planning on doing something in the next episode that was
Yeah.
requested in a few different spaces. So just seeing what our listeners are interested in hearing from about us, more specifically, especially those who have been with us for a long time now, even from the beginning.
I feel like they
And
grew up with us. Like we're all just
yeah.
growing up together, young and wifed up. We're turning into old and senile. I'm like, at what point? Well, while you are still in your 20s, I think we're safe. So we got maybe like 3 more years left, and then we're
We have like
middle-aged and
two,
wifed up.
we have like 2.5. Yeah, well, I think 35 is the cutoff point.
Okay, so we still got some time.
Yeah,
We have more time than I thought we did.
Anyway, yeah, just yeah, even from new listeners and old listeners, you guys kind of like having the same kind of requests is also really interesting. So maybe
Mhm.
we've just like been putting out a certain kind of vibe that like this would be a good topic for us to just talk about. I have no idea. I'm speculating. Anyway, that and just like sharing more of our day-to-day practical things. Because I feel like sometimes it's nice to talk about the abstract,
Mhm.
concepts of life, and then other times it's like, okay, what do I do though?
Yeah. You're like, but what are
So,
you doing?
but what are you doing about that?
Cool.
So yeah, that'll be good.
Awesome. Well, guys, this was the longest season premiere we've ever done in our life. And I think us having guiding questions is actually a good thing because usually we're like, oh, what happened the last few months? I don't remember.
Yeah, it was a good call. Good call.
Cool. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's premiere episode of season 7. We have a lot of exciting stuff planned for you guys. And as always, let us know in the Patreon comments, Facebook comments, and on Instagram if you have any thoughts or questions, or if you just want to chat. We'll talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.